My sister-in-law tried to use my wedding to announce her pregnancy, but I had to plan and stop her from stealing my moment. Weddings are meant to be joyful, but a quiet sense of unease had taken root in my mind. It started a few weeks ago, like an invisible thread pulling tighter and tighter. I could not pinpoint the source at first, but now I was certain it had to do with her, my future husband's sister. She had always been the kind of person who thrived on attention. Here was no mistaking her presence is in any way. From she spoke loudly, moved boldly, and always made herself the focal point. I would found it endearing as her confidence and prayer. But as the wedding approached, I noticed something in her demeanor that felt deliberate, almost calculating. It began with her comments scattered here and there like breadcrumbs leading to something I was not sure I wanted to find. During a recent family dinner, she casually remarked that my wedding would be the perfect opportunity for her to share some big news. At first, I thought I might be imagining things, but her tone had an unmistakable edge. The way she smiled as she said it lingered in my mind long after the plans were declared. Qley later that evening, I overheard her talking in the kitchen with one of the cousins. I didn't mean to listen, but her laugh came through the whole half-open door. She said something about how everyone would be thinking about her by the end of the night. The cousin responded with a light-haired comment about Observer reading the birds, but she only laughed in return as if I did not bother her at all. That's when my unease shifted into suspicious. This was on Love and Life, my fiancé. They were building together, yet there she was hunting at something that felt designed. Take the spotlight away. The pit on my stomach grew heavier with each passing thought. What would she possibly have planned? I competed in my closest friend that night, lying on everything. Ingrid noticed. She told me to stay calm, to watch and wait, just in case my nerves were amplifying things. It was good advice and tried to take it to heart, but deep down I could not shake the feeling that something was being, and it was not going to be good. The worst part was not knowing if she would do something. It was not knowing what the nagging feeling that something was not right, but did not know. Did not away. It became real stranger each passenger day. As the wedding drew closer, I felt the weight of it processing on my chest. I told myself to focus on the details that mattered, the flowers, that sitting chart, the bows. But no matter how much I tried to drown myself in preparation, the thought of her and her big surprise lingered, a dark cloud over everything would run along. Before I heard the first whisper of conversion, a cousin pulled me aside and doing a family gathering, her expression carefully. Natural, like someone lacking a tightrope between concern and gossip. She said she heard something about a big announcement planned for my wedding. She said it, hesitant yet eager to see my reaction made my stomach churn. That's when the pieces began to fall into place. Separating and the silly smiles, the way she seemed more. Suddenly it all made sense. She was planning to announce her pregnancy. At the reception, I felt a rush of disbelief and anger, the kind that leaves your skin pinking and your hands shaking. My wedding was supposed to be about me and my fiancé, about celebrating our love with the people who mattered the most, but now it felt like I was being upstaged in my own story. I did not know whether to scream or cry, so I did not instead. I clenched my fist and helped. I called the wedding planner, carefully explaining the situation without naming names. I wanted to sound calm and reasonable, even though my voice trembled at the edge of. She listened patiently, then offered practical advice: keep the timeline light, limit unplanned speeches, and have someone nearby in turns up. She already owned in the moment. She made test announcers enough on the surface, but laced with that same ominous undertone. She said something about how the weekend would be unforgettable, with a look that sent a chill through me afterward. I overheard her speaking with someone in the corner of the room. She did not bother to lawyer her voice, and I caught her saying that she could not wait for the reaction that confirmed it for me, whatever shade of doubt and his trying to evaporate. She was going to do it. She did not care about the consequences. I started forming a plan. I was not going to let her ruin my day, but I also did not want a public scan subtly wave into my weapon. I asked me it for honor to keep my weapon. I asked it for literally during the toast. I told the DJ to have a playlist ready to interrupt any awkward or unplanned announcement. Even the caterers were looped in, trying to flood the room with the desert trash if we needed the hardest. Part was pretending everything was fine at every event leading up to the big day. I had to bracing for a disaster. She, of course, seemed oblivious. Her growing resentment on maybe she was not maybe that silly smile was her way of letting me know she enjoyed the power she held over me. Stayed up late that night running through every possible scenario in my head. Could I confront her? Would she deny it? Would she doubled down just to spite me? None of the options seemed good. I realized the only thing I could do was be prepared. She might think she had control, but this was my wedding. If she was hurt by the time I finally fell asleep, need solve was still she was not going to win this knot. This time is morning of the wedding arrived and house was a buzz. With activity, the garden soft and sunlight streaming through, and unshined wakes and gentle hum of last minute. Passion but beneath the beauty. I felt the tension simmering. You quiet from imagining to break. I had to done comfortably. We could to prepare the plan was in place in everyone involved me. Their rule my hand. My maid of honor was on high alert, keeping a close eye on the microphone. During the reception, the DJ had a playlist of cool plays are ready to continue at moments. I noticed the way that she kept checking her phone, her face lighting up each time. I tried to focus on the ceremony, the real person, the real reason for the day. Moment I saw my fiancé waiting for me a lot. After the tension in my closed loosened, if any, for a little while, I was exchanged was surrounded by family and friends and a lot. Baby human being nothing else mattered, but the reception was another story. As soon as we stepped into the grand hall or for dinner, I felt the air shift the grand hall of dinner. I felt a shift was code for later in everything. I could already see her glancing toward the stage as if enhance, uh, enhancing her. Big moment in her head during the cocktail hour of Ongroman approached my pin me with a concerned look. Had ever overheard her practicing a speech something about family. Sharing her joy with everyone and a new beginning. His words planning to make her announcement during the close. I considered confronting her directly, but decided against it. She drew attention and complete on indignant frustration on knowing she would gotten under my skin instead. I pulled my maid of honor aside and remember her of that her she was animated laughing and chatting her excitement. Particularly visiting, I caught her standing near. But the conversation and clinking glasses barely resisted much. I kept contacting, drifting there to the microphone, knowing it was only a matter. Did not what for invasion, just rose from her seat as though she was slipping into the spotlight. She believed was hers, but before she could say what the plan, kicking to action, my maid of honor was already at her side, cutting her off. With an impromptu twist of her own, she realized her, took my hand and led me to the same. Said you could say the same for the first time that day. But whether it and the reception was full of song. A blur of music rather cake classes the were buzzed with pregnant energy. But my attention was anchored on one thing. The microphone placed on the stage. It felt like a ticking time bomb, and I was counting the second until she made her laugh. I caught glimpse of her throughout the evening. She was in element, laughing with cousins, chatting with my family. Friends, her charm as effortless as always. As always, there was something different about her tonight. Who would have thought she were waiting for the perfect moment to pounce? I did not have to want. Using no thoroughness of the rest, I saw her rise from her chair, one glass in hand, my heart decaying. She towed toward the short microphone with the confidence of open her mouth to speak. My maid in her stepped forward. He moved. The purpose a bright, deliberate, small plastered. I felt my queen's pulse quickly, every muscle in my body tensing as she reached on the stage. But they just as the opened her mouth to speak, purpose a high and they and raised her own glass high. Before anyone say anything else, she had out her voice, out of the room returned Hebel toast to the happy couple or crowd. Echoing her words, my sister-in-law froze her hand gripping. Originally, that was not about joy or family or even her so-called announcement. It was about control, about taking the spotlight no matter the cost. When I spoke, my voice was calm, but my resolve was firm. I reminded her that the day was not here to climb that. I had spent months planning it, pouring my energy into making it perfect for me and my husband. I told her not to him and her not to anyone else who had come to celebrate our union. Her response was immediate, defensive. Still, she called me selfish, accusing for making everything about myself. She seemed genuinely angry, as if she believed her action had been harmless, and I was the one overreacting. Her words stung, but they did not surprise me. This was equal to what I had feared, a confrontation and no one amount of reusing word rather. Atmosphere in the room is case hardened and he asked what was going on. The turned to him, her dancer. Deborah shifting her tone, softening us. She tried to explain herself. She playing the box. Blaine Hoy couldn't stand to share the spotlight calmly but firmly. Suddenly that this was our day, that her action international our flash. As the door closed behind her, the weight I had been carrying all the day began to lift. My husband. Look my hand, this is quiet. Reassurance grounding me, who we sat in silence for a moment in the room. But still the day was not perfect, far from it, but it was ours, and despite everything, that was enough. Still, I could not ignore the lingering feeling that this was not the end. She had left the room, but her presence, her need to control, hung heavy in the air. A small voice in the back of my mind whispered that this was just the beginning. I thought the worst was behind. The reception was over, the drama reflected. And she had finally left the stage, her frustration barely concealed. Then she slipped away into the night, my husband and I had reclaimed our day, and despite everything, I felt a sense of triumph, but that fragile peace did not last long. The following morning, as we sat in the garden having coffee, his aunt foot us. She looked hesitant, her eyes darting nervously between the two of us. I felt a pang of unease. Miss, she sat down and began to speak in a hushed voice. She told us there was something we needed to know, something about the announcement my sister-in-law. Her seemed too eager to make the words that flowed stern. The pregnancy was not real. There was no baby, no joyful news. It had all been a lie. The aunt explained that she would overheard conversation week ago. Before the wedding planning had even started, my sister-in-law had been complaining about feeling ignored, but about how all the attention was on the wedding and how she felt like she was being sidelined in the family. She said almost jokingly that a pregnancy announcement would not her back at the center of things at the time. The aunt had dismissed it as a passing moment, but after the rehearsal dinner and the failed toast, they realized it had not been a joke. At all, my mind raced as I tried to process what she was saying. The realization hit me like a punch to the chest. She had fabricated the entire story not out of joy or excitement, but out of a desperate need to reclaim the spotlight every cryptic moment. Comment every silly smile, every calculated no, it all made sense. Now she had not cared about how it might affect me, my husband, or even the rest of the family. It had all been a word about her. I felt a wave of anger rise within the most flowed quickly by her sternness. I had spent weeks wearing strategies, trying to protect my dear from being overshadowed, and all of it had been about a lie. She had taken something as scared as a wedding and turned it into a battlefield for her own insecurities. My husband sat silently beside me, his paw jaw tight and his eyes dark with frustration. When the aunt finished speaking to thanked me, he or feeling to us. The boys come but still after she had returned to the Miss hand pointing mine, he had not said much. He did not need to the betrayal hung baby Maybe in the area they could not be ignored. Later, we soon picked up to leave the state. I caught myself replaying every moment of the past. First weeks are last weeks the couple question it all. Seemed to fade well now, but as much as I wanted to let it go. A part of me knows this will not end the head crossed a line, but while we would measure to hold the day together. The cracks she left in wake were not going to disappear so easily. Months passed and life returned to symbols of normal. In the wedding felt like a distant memory, and I told myself I was ready to move on. But then one quick event and message, I read her name, lit up my phone screen, and for a moment, debate ignoring it, but curiously got the better of me. Her words were simple, almost apologetic. She said she was sorry for her action, that she had not meant to hurt anyone, but at the end of the message there was one line there sent a chill through me. You may have won that day, but things are far from over. The unease I thought I would left behind came rushing back. I did not know what she meant, but I knew one thing for certain: this was not over, not yet.